They all said Dominic loved me. After marriage, we maintained a polite and respectful relationship. Until that day, I discovered that he had been secretly caring for his unforgettable first love. I confronted him with reddened eyes. He feared damaging the woman's reputation and directly had me locked in a confinement room. Chapter 1. You can leave now. The sound of a baton striking the iron door echoed urgently. The guard stood at the door of the confinement room, looking at me with disdain. She was just like everyone outside. Deep down, she looked down on me. Mrs. Koo, struggling to stand up. It took me a moment to realize that I, who had died in a mudslide, had actually been reborn. Just like in my previous life, Dominic Koo was standing outside the door waiting for me. Chapter 2. Why are you crying? The man's handsome features came into view. I even remembered the pleasure of touching his brow and nose every night. Reborn. I found myself at a loss for words as we locked eyes. I really have been reborn. I sniffled and silently walked down the steps. The winter in North City is truly cold. The chill made my heart tremble with sadness. Dominic habitually took off his coat and draped it over me. Don't catch a cold. The long-lost warmth was mixed with a faint scent of gardenia. I recognized that scent. It was the fragrance of soapwort from Amanda's house. I recalled how, in my previous life, when I confronted him, Dominic's originally gentle demeanor gradually turned cold. His eyes filled with suppressed anger. Rebecca, I've kept you locked up for 3 days. Haven't you calmed down yet? Can you stop causing trouble? At that time, I was full of grievances. Faced with Amanda's provocations, Dominic turned a blind eye. I could only struggle bitterly, alone and helpless, eventually becoming a joke in the eyes of others. Dominic, in this life, you can openly love your unforgettable first love. I won't be a part of it anymore. Forcing back the tears that threatened to spill over, I stiffly took off the coat, not mentioning the scent. You should wear it yourself. I'm not cold. Dominic paused in his steps, taking a moment to come back to his senses. Chapter 3. When I got home, I grabbed the kettle and headed to the bathroom to take a shower. When I came out, it was a rare sight. Dominic was in the kitchen cooking. On the table, 3 simple homemade dishes were already prepared. Sit down. The soup will be ready in a moment. Who would have thought that the usually admired, unattainable Dominic Koo was now wearing my apron? If I hadn't witnessed him publicly ordering me to be locked up to protect that woman, I would hardly believe this was the same person. Even after a hot shower, my body still shivered occasionally. That was the pain of being buried in a mudslide, the despair of being abandoned by Dominic. I took a deep breath and told myself, Rebecca, you have to be strong. If others don't cherish you, betray you, abandon you, then you must love yourself even more. I served myself a large bowl of rice, locked in the confinement room for 3 days with no one attending to me. Every day, only 2 meals of steamed buns, porridge, and pickles. Dominic brought the seaweed soup to the table and was stunned. I didn't wait for him. I just kept picking up pieces of meat, devouring the rice like a starving ghost. He sat down across from me, ladling the soup. Eat slowly. If you like it, I'll buy more tomorrow. He placed the soup beside me. The sound of chopsticks and bowls clinking echoed in the house, making the 2 of us seem even more distant. After finishing the meal quickly, I got up to leave. Rebecca, Dominic called out to me. Let's talk. Chapter 4. You don't need to give me the cold shoulder. Dominic is naturally aloof, quiet, and reserved. Influenced by his father, he is disciplined, successful at a young age, and rarely shows emotion. Amanda lost her father early on, and she left North City with her mother, losing contact with us. A few years later, I met her in the mountains. By then, her uncle had already forced her to marry a drunkard. No one could understand the shock and anger Dominic felt at that moment. The most proud girl in the courtyard, in just a few years, had been tortured by her ex-husband until she was covered in scars. When Dominic picked her up, Amanda curled up in his arms, trembling. She suffered severe psychological trauma and was also caring for a child. It took me 2 years to help her stabilize. I really don't want her to be hurt again. Perhaps because my attitude had changed after being reborn, Dominic chose to tell me about his past in this life. The pain in the man's eyes was genuine. He had a deep affection for that woman from their youth, even though I had long since given up. Seeing my husband moved by another woman still made my soul ache. He would never know that his moment of vulnerability felt like a sharp knife stabbing into my heart, leaving it bloodied and raw. I struggled to control my breathing, clinging to the last shred of my sanity. "So, you locked me in the confinement room?" Dominic's breath hitched. He tried to make me understand his dilemma. "You accused her of being a homewrecker in front of so many people. Do you know how much damage that can do to a single mother?" "Dominic, you earn 80 yuan a month, giving me 20 and her 60. Is that what you call being clear and innocent? If you love her so much and can't bear to see her suffer, then why did you marry me? What do you take this family for? You didn't want her to be hurt, so you locked up your legally wedded wife in a confinement room. Do you know that from now on, I'll be mocked by the world, dismissed from the textile factory, and never able to find work again?" Years of pent-up grievances from my previous life finally poured out with each accusation. Looking at the man I had loved for half my life, I felt a sense of hopeless self-mockery. "Of course, you knew, you just didn't care." Tears blurred my vision, trapping me in my pain, making it hard to breathe. Like a fish on the brink of death, the man pulled me into his arms. The crisp warmth that was uniquely Dominic's enveloped me. He held my waist, gently patting my back, yet seemed at a loss. "I didn't mean to. Becca, please don't cry. It doesn't matter if you lose your job. I'm your husband. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life." Chapter 5. In my past life, he said the same thing. He said he would take care of me for the rest of my life. At that time, I maintained my pitiful dignity and refused him. I insisted on looking for a job, but with a disciplinary record, no one dared to hire me. In the end, I returned home battered and broken, like a stray dog, and became a full-time housewife. Dominic didn't mock or despise me for it. He was actually a good person who kept his word. When we got married, he unreservedly handed over all his savings for me to manage. Before I knew about Amanda, I was truly happy. But after Dominic locked me in the confinement room for another woman and I lost my job, many people began to mock and ridicule me. Behind Dominic's back, they said I was a toad that had somehow managed to eat swan meat. The most terrifying thing was that those venomous words were all true to me. In this world, people are not afraid of lies clouding their judgment. They only fear the truth piercing their hearts. Day after day, I tormented myself, becoming a volatile and ignorant shrew who would explode at the slightest provocation. The past is unbearable to recall. In this life, I know where my path lies. Wiping away my tears, I pushed Dominic away and quietly responded, "All right." Chapter 6. Brother Dominic. Has sister-in-law returned? When Dominic opened the door, Amanda was standing outside in a warm yellow plum blossom cotton jacket, wrapped in the latest fashion, a red scarf that made her oval face look even more delicate. "It's cold outside. Come in." Dominic stepped aside and casually placed slippers for her. Amanda lowered her head and smiled shyly, her eyes full of affection. I knew why she was here, and I sneered inwardly, watching her performance. "Brother Dominic, I came to return the keys. It's really not appropriate for me to keep living in your marital home." Amanda glanced at me with a hint of apology, the provocation in her eyes unmistakable. "Sister-in-law seems to have some misunderstandings about us. I'd better move out to avoid making her uncomfortable." Dominic looked at me in shock, instinctively glancing my way, but I had no reaction. His eyes showed a hint of panic. His lips parted slightly as if he didn't know what to say. "Brother Dominic?" Amanda looked puzzled, cautiously asking, "Sister-in-law still doesn't know?" The room fell silent. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Brother Dominic." Her eyes instantly filled with tears, as if she had suffered a great grievance. "I'll move out right now and give the house back to you." Dominic grabbed Amanda, who was about to leave. "Don't be ridiculous. In the middle of winter, where could you go with a child?" "Rebecca, that house was a gift from my family when I first started working. I let Amanda and her child live there so she could recover." "All right." Looking at these star-crossed lovers, I didn't want to respond any further. Dominic's face paled, his eyes filled with bewildered confusion. Not wanting to see their faces any longer, I stood up and began clearing my dishes. Dominic, I'll be preparing for exams from now on. Whatever you do outside, I can't control it, and I don't want to. Dominic opened his mouth to speak again, but I had already left without looking back. Chapter 7. In 1977, the country reinstated the college entrance examination. Back then, life had worn down my edges, and I never considered changing my fate through education. Having a second chance at life, I decided to live differently, unwilling to muddle through life aimlessly. I no longer cared how many women Dominic kept outside or how many children he fathered. As long as we didn't divorce, he still had to support this household. I stayed home all day, focused on studying. I didn't ask about his work outside. I wasn't interested in how things were progressing between him and his unforgettable first love. I stopped doing his laundry. There were plenty of people outside to take care of that for him. I no longer inquired after his well-being. Such words could be left to that pair of star-crossed lovers to exchange with each other. When he came home, I was usually at my desk, buried in my books. Days passed, and we no longer had any communication. Sometimes, I could hear his footsteps stop at the bedroom door. I could sense him standing there for a long time. He seemed like he wanted to say something to me, but I never turned back. In the end, he could only leave silently. Sometimes at night, I read under the lamp at the desk he used to use. Now, he could only read by the bedside, though he never complained. Occasionally, I noticed him leaning against the headboard, not reading. He was simply watching me, his gaze deep and unreadable. Only when I adjusted my posture would he look away. He knew I didn't want to talk to him, so any necessary communication about household matters was written on a note and left on my desk before he went to work. We still slept in the same bed, but nothing else happened. I was exhausted. After studying, I'd climb into bed and fall asleep instantly. When he saw my dirty clothes, he wanted to help me wash them, but he wasn't good at it. Seeing the white shirt stained with other colors, I felt a pang of heartache. It was one of my few new clothes. He seemed frustrated, like a child who had done something wrong, silently upset. I'm sorry. This was our first conversation in a long time. It's okay. I re-soaped the shirt. Go on with your work. I'll wash my own clothes from now on. You don't have to help. Dominic lowered his gaze, watching me, even though I was still in this house, even though I still slept beside him. But everything was different from before. Chapter 8. One weekend, a sweaty Elena knocked on my door. Rebecca, the reference books are more expensive than we expected. The money we pooled together isn't enough. Do you have any more? Reference books were scarce and therefore extremely valuable in this era. With the reinstatement of the college entrance examination, the enthusiasm for studying had reached an all-time high across the country. New materials had just been released, and the bookstores were bound to be crowded. I had agreed with a few friends to pool our money to buy a set, but we didn't expect the price to be so high. Fortunately, Dominic's monthly allowance had just come in. It was still 20 yuan, neatly placed in the bedside drawer. I pulled out the largest bill, a 5 yuan note, and carefully tucked it into the lining of my cotton jacket before hopping on my bike to head to the bookstore with Elena. Rebecca, over here, over here. Laura, who was in line at the checkout, shouted at me. I was jostled so much that my hat nearly fell to the ground. After finally managing to push my way forward, I saw, amidst the bustling crowd, Dominic standing tall on the stairs, protectively holding Amanda. Chapter 9. Hearing my name, the two of them also noticed me, squeezed in with just my head poking out. Even as the one being cheated on, I had to admit, they truly looked like a perfect match. Amanda's face showed disdain, but I didn't care. Standing in the crowded hall, I gave them a slight smile. Dominic's breath hitched. He looked at my serene smile, his eyes filled with a sadness I couldn't understand. Rebecca, hurry up! Laura, nearly pushed out of the front row, couldn't help but shout anxiously. Ignoring the two, I pulled out the money from my lining and raised it above my head, trying to pass it to her through the crowd. Oh no! Careful! A sudden exclamation came from the direction of the stairs. I turned to see Dominic leap from nearly 2 meters high down the stairs. causing the crowd to back away in shock. Tall and striking, even in a crowd, he stood out. He pushed through the throng, step by step, making his way toward me with difficulty. He pulled me into his arms. I looked down, avoiding his gaze. "Please make way." Dominic's voice was stern. He shielded me as we squeezed through the crowd. "Oh my God, finally made it through." Laura playfully saluted Dominic. "Thanks, Brother Koo." Dominic nodded in response. We finally bought the reference books, split 5 ways. It cost each of us 3 yuan and 40 cents. It was expensive, but everyone was still beaming with joy. Unfortunately, the math reference book had already sold out due to the crowd. "There's some on the second floor," Dominic said. There was a cafe on the second floor, where the prices were high, so it was usually quiet. "Really?" All 4 of my companions looked at Dominic, their eyes brimming with excitement. Dominic didn't say much, just gestured for everyone to follow him upstairs. "Brother Koo, you're like a godsend," Laura teased, winking at me. I ignored her playful antics and silently followed the group upstairs. "Brother Dominic, over here." In front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, a graceful woman waved with a smile. Who else could it be but Amanda? Her gentle, serene smile could melt the snow and ice. She had been well taken care of all these years. Dominic nodded and walked toward Amanda. He pulled out a chair and looked back at me, seemingly waiting for me to sit down. I ignored him, walking around behind him. I squeezed in with the 4 country bumpkins. Dominic's body stiffened slightly, his lashes lowered, hiding his thoughts from everyone. Chapter 10. Amanda. "So you were waiting for your lover." A waitress walked by, teasing Amanda in a familiar tone. "Beautiful Zhu Tai. Can I take your order now?" "Anna, stop talking nonsense." Amanda laughed, playfully scolding her, showing no sign of embarrassment. Elena turned her head and gave me a look. As old friends, I knew exactly what she meant. "What's going on?" I just felt helpless and shook my head at her. Dominic noticed our little interaction, his deep eyes dark and unreadable. Anna, tall and slim, was a friend of Amanda's. While taking our order, she stood and chatted with us. It turned out that Amanda had used her connection with Dominic to help Anna get a job at the bookstore cafe. Someone sincerely commented, "This place is such a great job, easy work, nice environment, and good pay. It's way better than our textile factory." Anna was straightforward as she served us coffee, all thanks to Brother Koo for his help. Elena leaned in and whispered to me, "Last year, when I passed by here, I saw their hiring sign. They were offering 18 yuan a month." I sniffed and turned to look at the view outside the floor-to-ceiling window. "Are you cold?" Dominic suddenly spoke up. Before I could respond, he had already taken off his coat and draped it over me. Amanda's smile stiffened slightly. Anna was taken aback, her expression curious as she looked between the 2 of them. Then, as if suddenly understanding, she said, "Oh, silly me. We have a heater here." "Dominic." "Amanda." A voice called out from behind, an elderly man's voice. Chapter 11. Teacher Wu. Recognizing the elderly man, both Dominic and Amanda stood up simultaneously. The rest of us, unsure of what was happening, followed suit, bowing and greeting him. "Yes, yes, everyone, please sit." The elder, Mr. Yuan, took the seat of honor and looked at Amanda, who had grown into a graceful woman, with deep emotion. "Good child. It was your father's situation that delayed your progress back then. Now that our country has reinstated the college entrance exams, you must cherish this opportunity." Tears welled up in Amanda's eyes. She had indeed endured a lot of hardship over the past few years. "Thank you, teacher, for your concern. Over the years, Brother Dominic has helped me a lot." Mr. Yuan nodded in satisfaction. "You two grew up in the same courtyard, and now that he's achieved success, it's only right for him to take care of you." Amanda's eyes flickered slightly as she glanced at me, her expression unreadable. I missed out on a lot of education back then. Although Brother Dominic has already helped me review for a year, he's worried about my health and suggested that I wait another year and take the exam next year. I knew Amanda was trying to provoke me, to make me lose my composure and humiliate myself. to prove to everyone that I was unreasonable and undeserving of Dominic. This tactic had worked for her many times in the past. But now, I no longer cared. Besides, what she was saying was something I had already read about in the college entrance exam commendation report in my previous life. Chapter 12. In my previous life, under Dominic's meticulous care and guidance, Amanda spent 2 years reviewing and successfully passed the exams. She became the pride of North City. She stood on the stage at the commendation ceremony, radiant and captivating. As an outstanding representative, she gave a speech, thanking someone who had helped her emerge from the darkness. I wasn't allowed into the event, but I saw her photos and interview in the newspaper. The reporter asked if she would attend Peking University or Tsinghua University. In that photo, the dazzling woman stood on the stage, gazing tenderly at the man sitting in the front row. I will stay in North City to attend university. This is not only my hometown but also where my beloved is. In the future, I want to work with him to build our home together. It seemed as if I could hear applause coming from all directions, deafening and overwhelming, piercing my eardrums painfully. She and Dominic standing together were what everyone praised as a perfect match. Chapter 13. I sipped my coffee absent-mindedly, savoring the taste. Bitter. So bitter. Add some sugar, Dominic quietly suggested, picking up a packet of sugar and adding it to my coffee. Teacher Wu paused his conversation, puzzled as he observed his usually aloof student being so considerate toward a woman. He then asked, "Dominic, who is this?" Dominic naturally took my hand. "Teacher, this is my beloved comrade Rebecca." Amanda's face turned ashen. I was bewildered. In my previous life, I never considered taking the college entrance exam, so I had never been here, never met this elder, and never experienced Dominic introducing me so formally. But I couldn't be rude in front of a senior, so I responded politely. "Hello, Teacher Wu. I'm Rebecca." Oh, Mr. Yuan adjusted his glasses, his face kind and gentle. "Rebecca, are you planning to take the college entrance exam too?" "Yes, Mr. Yuan nodded understandingly. "Dominic, the 2 sets of study materials you ordered before, they were for Amanda and Rebecca, right?" Dominic nodded. "Good kids." Teacher Wu pointed to the 2 stacks of books on the bar, the very ones we had lined up to buy today. "I've already set the books aside. Remember to take them when you leave. Study hard at home. And if you don't understand something, come ask me." Everyone was pleased that the math books were taken care of. I stared at the 2 stacks of materials, one on the left and one on the right, neatly arranged. Dominic hadn't told me he had reserved the materials for me. Putting aside Amanda, he truly treated me well, but this divided attention left me feeling insecure. I really couldn't accept it. I had never minded Dominic helping others, it was his duty and responsibility. But when it came to Amanda, I always felt that Dominic's heart was biased. The smell of earth rushed into my mind again, as if reminding me of the humiliation and despair when Dominic had abandoned me. My limbs suddenly went weak, and I felt a coldness spread through my body. Noticing my hand trembling uncontrollably, Dominic turned to me in surprise, gently squeezing my hand. "Teacher Wu is asking which university you plan to apply to." Dominic sensed something was wrong and asked softly, "Are you feeling unwell?" I shook my head and apologized to Mr. Yuan. "With so many applicants this time, I plan to give it a try. If I pass, I'll go wherever I get in. If not, it's okay. I'll try again next year." "Rebecca, aren't you going to stay in North City to study?" Laura asked, puzzled. After all, Amanda had just told Mr. Yuan that she wanted to stay in North City because her beloved was there, which Laura found deeply romantic. "I want to leave this place." I took a deep breath, struggling to suppress the painful memories from my previous life. "Because I want to leave. I'm studying so hard." Dominic's hand, holding mine, trembled almost imperceptibly. Chapter 14. When it was time to leave, I went straight home. Dominic had to return to work. Amanda found an excuse to go with him. On the way, Elena, pedaling her bike, turned to ask me, "You two still haven't made up?" "Huh? No way." Lara's face broke into a love-struck smile. Didn't you see how cool Brother Ku was? Jumping down the stairs to protect Becca? It was so heroic. Elena rolled her eyes at her. Yes. Your idol is the best. Laura ignored the teasing and continued. Of course. Becca, I think that woman has some ideas about your man. You should be more careful. Elena warned with good intentions. I smiled bitterly. The truth was, Dominic and Amanda had mutual feelings for each other. I was just occupying the position of Mrs. Ku, and paying attention to these things would only bring me more pain. I'm planning to get a divorce. Screech. Elena slammed on the brakes, nearly toppling over. Divorce? Both of them shouted at once. In this era, divorce wasn't easy. Marriage was supposed to be a lifelong commitment, and most people just gritted their teeth and endured it. Passers-by stared at the two girls making a scene. Their expressions varied. I continued pedaling my bike. Unhurriedly, the two exchanged a glance and caught up with me, flanking me on both sides as we rode along the asphalt road. Rebecca, explain yourself. I sighed, looking ahead at the warm winter sun. Once I get into university, I'll divorce Dominic. Why? Laura was confused. To her, Dominic was the perfect man, and she couldn't understand why I wasn't satisfied. After being locked in the confinement room, I've come to understand many things. Dominic cares about Amanda, which drives me to insecurity and madness. Instead of becoming someone even I can't respect, it's better to let go. Without them, maybe I'll live better. I thought I had moved on, but every time I talked about these things, my chest still ached. I knew I was avoiding the emotional issues between Dominic and me. I was a coward and a failure, but in my past life, I had tried, struggled, and lost miserably. I couldn't blame anyone. In this life, I admitted that it was my cowardice that made me choose to retreat. At least I could leave with some dignity. Hasn't this all been cleared up? Laura defended Dominic. He's just helping a widow and her child. Brother Ku has helped others before too. Hasn't he? He's such a good person. Rebecca, can you really bear to leave him? Elena looked at me with concern. Becca, Dominic is just helping others out of kindness. The organization wouldn't agree to a divorce for that reason. My mind was made up. It doesn't matter if they don't agree. Once I get into university, I won't come back. After 4 years of separation, there'll be a way to get a divorce, and no one's reputation will be harmed. Why are you suddenly so cold-hearted? Laura couldn't believe it. Didn't you see? Every time we're out, Brother Ku pays special attention to you, but you're the one who's always so distant. It was the same today. Lara's eyes reddened. If you divorce him over this, it's so unfair to Brother Ku. Chapter 15. Back then, the wall of Lara's house collapsed. Her father's leg was crushed, and her mother ran off with someone else. The beautiful girl tried to raise money, but those who had once pursued her either looked troubled or simply ignored her. Dominic saw the tearful girl at the hospital, and even though they didn't know each other at the time, he still paid her medical bills, personally organized people to repair her house, and even helped her find a job to support herself. Laura, bold and passionate, gathered her courage and decided to confess her feelings to Dominic, who was still single at the time. But that night, Dominic gently refused her. Laura knew she wasn't a match for Dominic, but she still couldn't give up. Brother Ku, you're so outstanding. Do you have many girls confessing their feelings to you? Dominic was momentarily taken aback but didn't answer directly. My family situation isn't good, but I'm very beautiful. I know you're still single, and I don't ask for marriage. Even if I can only be your girlfriend, I'd be happy. Laura had pursued and been pursued many times, but this was definitely her bravest attempt. Yet Dominic still rejected her without hesitation. Later, when we worked together at the textile factory, Laura became good friends with Elena and me. She openly shared this unfulfilled love story with us. Even though we didn't know Dominic at the time, she was so passionate and courageous, loving with an open heart. After being rejected, she was sad for 2 days, but then she moved on, as if no worry was worth staying in her mind for more than 3 days. No one knew that this beautiful girl, usually so adept in matters of love, had run out into the rain that night. Heartbroken, Dominic found her in the pouring rain. Catching her small figure, He held an umbrella over her, shielding her from the downpour, and took her back to her new home. Dominic told her, "You're a good person. Even if someone rejects you, you must still learn to cherish yourself." Lara could never believe that someone like him would make a mistake against his principles. Chapter 16. Elena suddenly grabbed my bike's handlebars, bringing us all to a stop. "Becca, we're sisters. No matter what you decide, we'll respect your choice." "Elena!" Lara called out urgently, but Elena continued calmly. "Just think it through carefully. Marriage isn't a game, so don't act impulsively." I pressed my lips together and finally spoke. "I'm not being impulsive. We're married, but he can't give me a sense of security. Every day, I feel uneasy, anxious, and fearful. Since I decided to let go of this marriage, I've realized that I don't have to be a shrew, that I can live a peaceful life." Lara is right. I might lose a good man because of this, but I can become my true self again. Chapter 17. In the days that followed as I prepared for the college entrance exam, the world slowly became more peaceful, without any expectations. My relationship with Dominic became much more harmonious. I no longer heard others mocking or ridiculing me. And finally, I no longer had to shout myself hoarse arguing for him. The past life had become a nightmare, fading away with time. 7 months later, when the exam results were released, I finally succeeded in passing. Amanda competed with me, also taking the exam this year. She scored better than I did, but she didn't achieve the exceptional results she had in the previous life. As expected, she chose Peking University. As for me, I chose to go to the warmer South. The organization held a citywide commendation ceremony. This time, I was also invited to attend. A man with a cane gave a speech as an outstanding representative. The final part was the award ceremony, and the applause from the audience was endless. Based on my scores, I stood in the last row, and Dominic walked up to me with my certificate. "Congratulations." His voice was cold, suppressed, and low. I avoided his gaze, took the certificate, and examined it carefully, showing the first truly relieved smile since my rebirth. Dominic stared at me, his eyes brewing with emotions he was trying hard to restrain. It wasn't until the girl holding the tray softly reminded him that he finally moved. With everything settled, I began preparing to head south. But unexpectedly, Mother Ku came to visit at this time. Chapter 18. Rebecca, can't you stay and study at Peking University? Mother Ku was a remarkable woman. She had always treated me well. "You two haven't even been married for 2 years, and you don't have any children. If you go away, you won't see each other for half a year. You both need to think carefully about this." Mother Ku didn't know that our marriage was already on the brink of collapse. "If you get pregnant while you're studying, how can we feel at ease letting you live alone in another city?" I thought about it for a long time and decided to take this opportunity to say what needed to be said. "Mom, actually, Mom, it's fine." Dominic suddenly interrupted me, leaving me a bit stunned. "I'll make all the necessary arrangements. Rebecca's studies come first, and we'll be careful about the child issue." Mother Ku shook her head disapprovingly. "That's not something you can just be careful about. What if she gets pregnant unexpectedly? What will you do then?" "I'll submit a transfer request and move to South City to take care of her." I was puzzled. The man avoided my gaze, his seemingly calm expression betraying a hint of unease. Mother Ku, never one to favor her son, thought it over briefly and decided it was feasible. "That's more like it. No job is more important than your wife, right?" Mother Ku was delighted. "Rebecca, you heard him." With that assurance, "You can focus on your studies. Your father and I won't worry as much, as long as you two stay happy together." My eyes reddened, and I couldn't find the words to speak. Dominic escorted Mother Ku back, and the words I had meant to say about divorce were left unspoken. Now wasn't the right time to bring up divorce, setting aside whether the organization would even approve. The fact that I had just passed the exam and was already planning to abandon my husband would surely have people condemning me as ungrateful. Realizing that this matter couldn't be rushed, I decided to hold off for now. Chapter 19. In mid-August, I boarded the green train, finally leaving the city. It was almost flood season, and Dominic was very busy with work. often working late into the night. I hinted to him to pay attention to the reinforcement of the mountain near North University, and being the diligent worker he was, he promised to arrange for someone to inspect it. Dominic asked if I needed him to accompany me to South City. I shook my head, indicating that it wasn't necessary. He handed me the bank book from the drawer. It was all the savings we had, which he had entrusted to me on the second day of our marriage, 1,500 yuan he had saved over the years. I didn't accept it. In the dead of night, Dominic carefully held my hand, quietly holding it all night. I pretended to be asleep, staring into the dark, listening to the night wind. When it was time to say goodbye, I hugged Laura and Elena. I bid Dominic a simple farewell. University life was tough, vibrant, and busy. Every month, I received a letter from Dominic, including 20 yuan for living expenses. For a university student, that was a considerable sum. Once, a roommate saw me opening the letter and became even more envious of how caring and capable my husband was. I just smiled without saying anything, carefully putting all the money away without spending it. Now, I was studying, working as a tutor, and assisting my professors with research, earning 8 yuan a month. By being frugal, I could manage on my own. Occasionally, the letters would contain a pressed red leaf or a single winter plum blossom. On the letter, in neat, beautiful penmanship, there would be a short message: "The maple leaves at home have turned red," or "A winter plum blossom has bloomed in front of the door," or "Parents are in good health. Don't worry." Sometimes, I also received letters from Elena and Laura. Thanks to Teacher Wu's tutoring, Elena successfully passed the entrance exam for North University in this life. Laura didn't pass and continued working at the textile factory, occasionally sharing amusing stories in her letters to me. For example, Elena wrote disdainfully, "Half a month into the semester, the school held a campus star selection, and Amanda took first place." Or Laura angrily wrote, "Amanda is using Dominic's name to make a big splash at North University. Some people even say she's Dominic's lover and that they have a very well-behaved son together." I no longer cared. Time flew by, and before I knew it, the end of the year was approaching. During my first winter break at university, most of my classmates had already left the campus. I applied to stay at the dorm and, once approved, wrote a letter home. "Studies are heavy. Won't be coming home for the break." Winter in the south was warmer than in the north, and the streets were bustling with festive decorations for the new year. On New Year's Eve, I was alone in the dormitory making dough. The gatekeeper called me downstairs to take a phone call. It was Mother Koo on the line. "If Dominic hadn't come home for the new year, I wouldn't have known you didn't come back. Are you doing okay by yourself out there?" On the other end of the line, I could hear the distant sound of fireworks exploding in the sky. "I'm fine." I sniffed and exhaled a puff of white breath. "And you? How's your health?" "Mommy, the fireworks are so beautiful outside." A child's clear voice came through the phone. I was stunned. It was Amanda's child's voice. Dominic had already brought his lover home for the new year. During family reunions, emotions are always particularly fragile. I knew I had already withdrawn from this love story that didn't belong to me. But at this moment, my heart still hurt so much that I couldn't breathe. Why? Why couldn't he care just a little, even just a little, about my feelings? I'm hanging up, my eyes stung with tears as I stared blankly at the distant, dimly lit dormitory building. The cold air filled my lungs, making tears stream down my face. The phone in the gatekeeper's room rang urgently. The gatekeeper answered and informed me that it was the family of a senior official calling for me, insisting that I return to the phone. "What's the matter with you, comrade? Why did you hang up without finishing the conversation? No matter what the disagreement is, you can't argue with your elders during the new year, can you?" I had no choice but to pick up the receiver, my voice hoarse. "Hello? Rebecca. Please don't misunderstand." Mother Koo was a smart woman. It didn't take her long to figure out why I had suddenly hung up. She shot a reproachful look at the culprit and handed the phone to Dominic. "You explain it yourself." Mother Koo sent Amanda and her child to the dining room. She wanted Dominic to take this opportunity to have a proper conversation with me. There was a long silence. I was so cold I kept stomping my feet. Guessing that Mother Koo was no longer by the phone, I finally spoke. Hang up. Rebecca! Dominic suddenly called my name. She came to visit my father with her child, and he invited her to stay for dinner. I didn't know. I rubbed my eyes as tears fell uncontrollably. Hang up. Chapter 20. On the second day of the Lunar New Year, I saw Dominic. He had taken a 20-hour green train ride, arriving covered in dust. Why are you here? We stood at the entrance of the girls' dormitory at Southern University, staring at each other. I came to see you. Dominic looked thinner, with a fragile and worn-out appearance. He had to return to work on the fourth day, so his time was limited. Show me your school. Dominic took off the scarf from around his neck and wrapped it around me. It carried the familiar scent of the soap we used at home, with a hint of cotton tree blossoms. I led him around, introducing him to the university's long history and various buildings. This was the most I had spoken to him since my rebirth. Dominic listened attentively, his gaze often lingering on my profile. We ate dumplings at the small campus canteen. The canteen auntie, who recognized me, widened her eyes and asked, spoon in hand, where I had found such a handsome man. I didn't know how to answer. Dominic, however, responded naturally. I'm Becca's husband. Thank you for taking care of her. Southern University was vast, and when we got tired of walking, we found a random bench by the lake to sit on. I stared at the lake, with nothing to say. Dominic, exhausted, rested his head on my shoulder and fell asleep. When he left, I didn't see him off. I simply told him, I know you're busy with work, so don't come again. It's too tiring. Without looking at his expression, I quickly turned and walked away. I wasn't strong, and I didn't want to gamble. Chapter 21. Dominic continued to send 20 yuan every month without fail. When I didn't return home during my second winter break, Elena and Lara knew I was serious. Lara sent me a thick stack of letters, basically accusing me of being heartless, ungrateful, and petty. She wrote that Commissioner Koo knew everything. The day after I had told them about my divorce plans, she secretly told him everything. That day, even though Dominic thanked her politely as always, he stood there for a long time after she left. The man who always looked so strong and upright seemed on the verge of collapse. Lara questioned me repeatedly. Rebecca, how can you be so heartless? Rebecca, do you know how many people envy you? Why can't you appreciate what you have? Seeing the last line soaked in tears, I sighed. This silly girl had even cried. Lara was a friend worth cherishing. I thought I needed to have a proper talk with her. Lara, dear friend, I hope this letter finds you well. I once had a dream. I dreamed that after coming out of the confinement room, I chose to forgive Dominic. I lost my job, and every day, I was consumed by the trivialities of life, becoming more and more detached from society. Meanwhile, Amanda kept appearing in my marriage. Just like on the day we went to buy books, she would deliberately flirt with Dominic in front of all our friends and secretly provoke and anger me. Dominic said she had been traumatized and asked me to be more generous. Or rather, he habitually chose to sacrifice me, just like he could lock me in the confinement room to protect Amanda. I dreamed that my life became a mess because of this. And Amanda, under Dominic's care, listened to his advice and took the entrance exam the following year, achieving excellent results. I dreamed that she stood on the podium and, in front of everyone, said that she chose to stay in North City because her lover was also there. I even dreamed that a few years later, Amanda and I were buried together in a mudslide near North University, and Dominic, with his team, chose to save Amanda. From the moment I left the confinement room, I was already a dead person, abandoned by Dominic and buried under the mudslide. Lara didn't understand my letter. She wanted to argue that I couldn't condemn Dominic based on a dream, but Elena, who had read the letter, stopped Lara, who was about to start writing furiously. Can't you see? What Becca is saying, though it hasn't happened, alludes to something real. Her concerns are understandable, Elena even calmly analyzed. If it wasn't for competing with Becca, I believe, given Amanda's personality, she would have followed Dominic's advice and taken the exam the following year. Becca's dream isn't baseless. If Amanda dared to say such blatant things in front of us to upset Becca, she could certainly say them on stage in front of everyone. Even North University, the survey team assessed, has the potential for a mudslide disaster. The military has been reinforcing and repairing it all year. This letter ultimately ended up in Dominic's hands, delivered by Elena. And Dominic, only more perceptive than Elena, would have understood even more. Chapter 22. Not long after, I received a call from Mother Koo. Dominic was gravely ill. Mother Koo's voice was hoarse. These past few years, Dominic has almost buried himself in his work, but I know he hasn't been well. She pleaded, "Rebecca, can't you come back?" I clenched my teeth, refusing to relent. Mother Koo broke down in tears. Dominic has been deeply influenced by his father and his work. He never talks about what's in his heart. But I'm his mother, and I know he truly cares about you. On your wedding day, he was so nervous his hands were shaking. How could he not love you? He's such a determined child. I know of several girls who confessed their feelings to him, and he always rejected them outright. If he didn't care about you, he would never have agreed to marry you. Chapter 23. After I refused to return to care for the seriously ill Dominic, I received a flood of letters during that winter break. They accused me of being ungrateful and unworthy of being a wife. Organizational leaders called, expressing concern for my studies and life. But their underlying message was that no matter how important my studies were, I should still take care of my family. It wasn't until Laura called me in tears, telling me that Dominic was refusing to eat or drink, that I learned Elena had gone to the hospital and slapped him across the face. Are you just going to lie here like a living corpse? She's gone, and you're not going to go get her back. You're a grown man. Do you really need someone to tell you what to do? Half a month later, I received a letter from Dominic. I am well. Don't worry. Don't let the organization's inquiries trouble you. I wish for my wife's peace and health. The strength in his writing wasn't as firm as before, as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. But the handwriting bore a deeper sense of weariness, something I knew his current self couldn't have produced. Mother Koo didn't blame me for my coldness. How could she not have noticed the situation with Amanda? Once Dominic's condition stabilized, she finally felt at ease. She even began calling me regularly to check on my well-being and studies. She was a remarkable mother. In the summer of my 3rd year, Dominic was promoted after passing a political review, recognized for his outstanding work and public reputation. When I heard the news, I was a bit stunned. Chapter 24. I was naturally aware of the promotion plan. This crucial document for cultivating young cadres had its nominations and evaluations conducted in secrecy by senior officials. Only when the final list was announced did everyone learn of it. But in my previous life, Dominic's name wasn't on that final list. I suddenly remembered that during my confinement, the team leader had vaguely warned me, even rumors, if manipulated by those with ill intentions, can seriously damage one's reputation. I felt a wave of regret. I hadn't realized that my constant turmoil in the past life had indeed dragged Dominic down so significantly. Yet, he had never mentioned to me that he was passed over for promotion. During that time, we had even visited his family home. Back then, Father Koo had unleashed a furious tirade. Dominic had been slapped hard across the face. His lips were stained with blood as he told me to leave first. Rebecca, our family isn't like ordinary families. There are many things. Mom. Dominic interrupted Koo's mother as he emerged from the study after being scolded by his father. He grabbed my hand and quickly left the Koo residence. We're leaving now. Tell Dad for me. So that's what it was. Everything suddenly became clear. I sat stunned on the bench, the sounds around me fading into the distance. That night, I thought a lot. In this marriage, I had harbored all my resentment toward Dominic. He had his faults, but I knew I wasn't without fault either. Even now, I still harbored resentment over his abandonment during the mudslide. But today, I also realized that he had shown me patience and care in his own way. Perhaps we were simply not meant to be. I let go of the resentment in my heart and picked up my pen to write my first letter of the year. Congratulations on your promotion. I wish you success in your career. Reflecting on the past, I feel a sense of guilt. There's a long road ahead. I hope you take care. Chapter 25. Dominic turned down the offer from the capital and applied for a transfer to South City. The leadership, valuing his talent, offered to help coordinate with my school, but Dominic declined. He didn't want to disturb me. Mother Koo was overjoyed, thinking her son had finally come to his senses. Better than your father, work is important, but you have to live your life well too. Father Koo had no objections. He was already proud that his son had managed to get promoted on his own merit. I didn't bring up the topic of divorce at this critical juncture. I knew how hard it had been for him to reach this position, and his future was bright. Any blemish on his personal life or family relations could be detrimental. Dominic took me to see his new house in South City, which was more than twice the size of our old residence. The ground floor had a small garden with orange trees, cucumbers, and tomatoes. Rebecca, I'm sorry. He stood under the orange tree, the dappled shadows falling across his sharp features. For all the grievances you've suffered. After reading the letter you wrote to Laura, I had a dream about the mudslide at North University. I rescued the most devastated area and then started a thorough search. In the end, I found your body buried at a collapsed site. Dominic's hands trembled involuntarily as if recalling the excruciating pain of digging with his bare hands in the dream. In the dream, you watched as I saved others, believing I had abandoned you. His voice choked. I didn't know you were there, and I didn't know Amanda was in the disaster zone either. I never abandoned you. You were easily triggered back then, and I was in the middle of a political review, so I had to keep you at home. But I didn't know that someone would provoke you with Amanda while I was away. After I got her into college, I only provided her with living expenses and a place to stay. I never took care of her beyond that. I wanted to maintain my silence or perhaps pretend indifference, saying, "It doesn't matter anymore. Dominic, I've already let it go." But I couldn't. I had died in the mudslide, under the torrential rain, carrying the resentment of being abandoned by the one I loved most. Even after my rebirth, no matter how much I pretended to be unaffected, I couldn't deny that this resentment had kept me from finding true joy. Thank you for clearing things up, Dominic. My trapped soul had finally found release. But for us, it's too late. Chapter 26, Amanda's Epilogue. Before Dominic came to South City, Amanda sought him out. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. For Rebecca, you really gave up the transfer to the capital? Dominic's calmness was almost frightening. She's my wife, wherever she is. That's where I'll go. Dominic, do you really not know how I feel about you? Tears streamed down Amanda's face, her eyes red. If it weren't for the changes in my family back then, we could have. Amanda, I rejected you when we were younger. I thought I made myself clear, but I can't control myself. Amanda cried out in anguish. Dominic's kindness to her after rescuing her had made her believe she still had a chance. Dominic, you're like the sun, lighting up my life. We were meant to be together. Amanda leaned in to kiss him, but Dominic stepped back. Amanda! His expression turned cold. You've always been proud, so I've never embarrassed you in front of others. But privately, I've reminded you many times. I promised my father, Uncle Bai, and Teacher Wu that I would take good care of you. After all you've been through, I understand you need support or a dignified place to stand. But you shouldn't have provoked Rebecca. She is my beloved. Amanda collapsed to the ground, laughing hysterically. Your beloved? Your beloved has already left you. You were on the brink of death, and she didn't even come to see you. Haha. Do you really think you two have a future? The only response was Dominic's retreating figure. Dominic left their marital home to her. She could continue living there. He even kept his original promise until she graduated. He would still send her 60 yuan a month for living expenses. To others, this might seem like a generous provision, but to someone like Dominic, it was merely a basic duty. Dominic never changed, but Amanda finally realized she would never get more. Later, Elena told me that during her senior year, Amanda got close to a married foreign professor in an attempt to secure a study abroad opportunity. When the professor's wife found out, she stormed into the university and beat both of them, sending them to the hospital. That professor, in his 50s, insisted on defending his freedom to love and promptly divorced his wife. The scandal shook the entire university. Amanda's reputation was ruined, Some students, unwilling to be associated with her, strongly demanded her expulsion, but Dominic used his connections to resolve the matter. Later, the professor took Amanda and her son abroad before she had even finished her studies. What became of her life overseas? No one knew.